evacuation here at portions of Calhoun, Brazoria, and Galveston counties. In fact, it wasn't just a few minutes ago. The police were actually out here at the water's edge getting people out of the water. Take a listen.
We're under a mandatory evacuation. I need you to exit the water.
One thing we want you to do is be lured by the waves, because we don't always get these big waves on the Gulf of Mexico and thinking, okay, I want to get out there and surf, I want a bodyboard. There's a danger in that water, and there's a reason there are evacuations. The police are not going to come out there and rescue you. You take your life into your own hands when you do that. Storm surge is going to be a big issue for us here at a place like Surfside. From the water's edge up to here, it's a very, very gentle rise that you can actually drive on the beach. So they put this gravel down to keep cars from driving out on the beach, because it's almost wall water now, hardly any beach left. But this will all be breached, okay? The water is going to come in. It's going to breach this. It's going to split it wide open. The water is just going to stream from the ocean back into Surfside, okay? It's going to be a huge danger for us here. We do have dunes, but when you have big breaks like this, the dunes don't do any good, because this is the channel that the water is going to go out of. And even these dunes, when the water comes up, are going to be compromised quite a bit. I think they're only at the highest peaks about 10 feet high or so. So I think we're going to have some serious issues here with the natural barriers that we have, Alex. They do provide some protection, but in this instance, if we get 6 to 12 feet of surge, all this is going to go underwater, unfortunately.
You bet. And, you know, sometimes with folks, when we say things like 6 to 12 feet, seeing helps to believe. You know, we can warn you verbally, but we actually want to show you what this is going to translate to. First, the Storm Surge Flooding Map. This is a product by the National Hurricane Center to give you an idea of the worst case scenario, how much water above ground. So this is a measurement above ground level. Surfside Beach, you're in that 6 to 9 foot storm surge location. So where Mike is, we are expecting 6 to 9 feet of water above ground. As we head to areas farther down the coast, we could be looking at 9 feet plus. So big problems possible as you head towards Port O'Connor and Point Comfort. But what does that look like? What is that going to be like in your neighborhood, perhaps? Let's start things off with 2 feet of water. We talk about 6 inches of water, moving water, enough to knock you off your feet. 2 feet of water, that's enough to move your car, float your car, and that's why we stress the importance of turning around rather than trying to drive through those flooded roadways. Turn around, don't drown. It's worth it. It means something. And most importantly, it works. Now, you stay in your house. You don't evacuate. 3 to 4 feet, first floor of your home, unaccessible anymore. You're forced to go up to the second level. The problem is, if that water keeps rising, now you're looking at 6, 7 feet, that water beginning to work into the second level of your home. If it keeps going, you may be trapped. You know, this is the time when people are forced to break through the roofs of their home. 9 feet plus, no level of your home, first or second floor, is going to be able to be livable, and you're forced to wait on the roof for rescue. Also a key, this water isn't moving, but we've got the wave action as well. The power of water can't be underestimated. In addition, you notice this water, it's not clear. We're not talking about a swimming pool. This water is going to be dirty. It's going to have chemicals, perhaps sewage, not to mention objects in it. Exceptionally dangerous, Dr. Knapp. Take water seriously. You've said it yourself. Folks need to listen to this.
You're right, Alex, and you know those values you're showing on the potential storm surge flooding map are a reasonable worst case scenario at any given location. But again, let's paint a big picture at what we could be seeing in coastal areas of Texas in terms of storm surge flooding, the salt water above normally dry ground. We don't know exactly where these values will occur, but the potential here in the central Texas coast is for 6 to 12 feet of storm surge flooding above normally dry ground, 5 to 7 south of that, 5 to 8 north of that. That is life-threatening. And again, new this year, this is the first operational issuance in this storm of the storm surge warning from the National Weather Service, coordinated between the Hurricane Center and the local forecast offices. What do you do if you're in the storm surge warning area? You heed the evacuation instructions from your local officials. And if you haven't heard such instructions and you don't feel safe in these areas, call your local emergency manager, ask them where you can go and how you can get there. There's still time to evacuate tonight. Much more coming up on Hurricane Harvey here on the Weather Channel.
At Coors, cold counts. That's why we lager, filter, and package cold for a cleaner, crisper taste. Because our mountain is brewing the world's most refreshing beer. Coors Light. Whatever your mountain, climb on. It's your first day on the job.
Walk in like you own the place. Now at Men's Warehouse, get 3 for $99 dress shirts plus buy one, get one on select items. It's time to like the way you look.
It's been building up over decades, storm after storm. And through 35 years of severe weather, it's strengthened into trust. Trust in the Weather Channel. To us, nothing matters more. We take you beyond the maps and apps, diving into the science and stories behind the storm. Every season, every storm, every time you watch, trust the Weather Channel.
I take pictures of sunrises, but with my back pain, I couldn't sleep in gap in time. Then I found Aleve PM.
Aleve PM is the only one to combine a safe sleep aid plus the 12-hour pain-relieving strength of Aleve.
I'm back.
Aleve PM for a better AM.
Buy one, take one is back, starting at $12.99 at Olive Garden. Come in for a fan favorite like smoked mozzarella chicken here. And leave with a great meal too. Buy one, take one. Hurry in, it's only for a limited time at Olive Garden.
Away is a million miles from the office. 1,000 years from yesterday. And the absolute shortest distance between work and play. Find your way. For a dealer in the RV that's right for you, visit GoRVing.com.
It's okay that everybody ignores me when I drive. It's fine, because I get a safe driving bonus check every 6 months I'm accident-free. Because I don't use my cell phone when I'm driving, even though my family does and leaves me all alone. Here's something else. I don't share it with Mom. I don't. Right, Mom? I have a brand new putter you don't even know about. It's awesome.
Safe driving bonus checks only from Allstate.
Sometimes I leave the seat up on purpose.
Switching to Allstate is worth it.
You each drive a Ford pickup, right?
Yes.
I'm going to show you a next generation pickup.
Awesome. Let's do this.
The bed is made of high-strength steel, which is less susceptible to punctures than aluminum.
The stronger, the better.
And best of all, this new truck is actually the current Chevy Silverado.
It's the Chevy Summer Drive. Get a total value of $9,600 or get 0% financing for 60 months on this Silverado All-Star. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
The Ford Summer Sales Event is in full swing.
I'll jump out and guide you back.
Easy, son. This is going to blow your mind.
Whoa, awesome. That is really cool.
Take on summer right with Ford, America's best-selling brand. Now with summer's hottest offer on Ford F-150. Get 0% for 60 months plus an additional $1,000 on top of your trade-in. That's the built Ford Tough F-150 with 0% for 60 months plus an additional $1,000 on top of your trade-in. Offer ends soon during the Ford Summer Sales Event. What makes the Weather Channel's coverage unique is that we are meteorologists. We know the weather, and that makes a tremendous difference.
You are watching the Weather Channel's live coverage of Hurricane Harvey. I'm meteorologist Mike Bettis in Surfside, Texas. This is an area where a mandatory evacuation has been ordered. Numerous counties along the Texas coast have mandatory evacuations in place. And you can see we're not far from the water's edge here, and it's only going to get higher from here, unfortunately. By the way, I want to show you something back here to the right. Look at that big tanker out there leaving leaving port. I'm not exactly sure where he may be going. I'm a little surprised that they're headed out right now, knowing that there's a tropical system out there. I guarantee you they're not going to head south. It's very possible, I guess, they could be headed maybe farther north or maybe over toward Louisiana. I'm just a little confused why they didn't just keep it in port this evening. But hopefully everything is okay with that cargo ship this evening. All right, so we know that there are constant missions now flying into Harvey from the Air Force, from the NOAA jet, actually taken off earlier today. And what they do is they fly these high altitude missions, and they drop the dropsondes into it. They sample the atmosphere. They get a really good idea of the atmosphere in and around Harvey. And that data goes into computer models, which give us a really accurate, finely tuned forecast. And so I want to bring in Dr. Rick Knabb right now, talk a little bit more about that. Dr. Knabb, how important are these jets in determining, certain aspects of Harvey, and it's particularly the steering and the intensity? How can we generate good forecasts from that data?
Yeah, it's really two kinds of aircraft that are being used for Harvey forecasts. One is the Air Force and NOAA prop aircraft that go into the hurricane, and then the NOAA G4 jet. What you're looking at there is one of the Hurricane Hunters that goes into the hurricane, but the NOAA G4 jet is the one that flies around it, and those data are put into the computer models to help with the steering depiction from the models and make for a better track forecast from the various computer forecast models. And we do have an Air Force plane that took off from Biloxi, Keesler Air Force Base, Mississippi, a little while ago. Let me show you where that plane is right now. It has been coming in from the northeast and going into the center of Harvey even as we speak. And I want to show you what the data have been so far. Not yet seeing anything that is stronger than the 85 miles an hour that is the current intensity, but you can see that they've gone through the center. That's where you see the wind speeds going down and coming back up again on the southwest side. And what's interesting is when you're a hurricane specialist at the Hurricane Center, you are communicating with the aircraft through a liaison officer who's on site there at the Hurricane Center. And if the hurricane specialist says, I want them to go back to the northeast and come in on that northeastern eye wall again and see if the winds are any different, you can do that as long as the aircraft can operate safely. The aircraft will go where the forecaster needs them to go to get the data they need. So this flight will be very interesting over the next several hours to see if the hurricane has intensified. Again, as of the last advisory, winds at 85 miles per hour, and we could be getting the new advisory just at any moment now. But what's happening is those aircraft data are being analyzed by the hurricane specialists right now, and then they're going to put together the intermediate advisory. We'll bring that to you as soon as they digest the aircraft data. In any event, it's not going to change the overall sense of the track forecast until they update it at 10 p.m. Central Time, but it's forecast to strengthen all the way to 125 miles an hour, maybe stronger, could get to Category 4, but just plan on a major hurricane coming ashore. Fluctuations in intensity are hard to predict relative to the exact timing of landfall. And then after it reaches the coast, it will either stay right near the coast or perhaps linger back offshore or linger on land or both over several days. So once the weather starts to go downhill with the arrival of rain bands and winds of tropical storm force on the coast of Texas tomorrow morning or midday tomorrow, somewhere in there, then that will be the beginning of the event, and then it will last several days. Long period of heavy rainfall, strong winds, and storm surge. Here comes the hurricane. As we get into the last few visible images of the day, it is looking healthier and healthier on the imagery. A very well-defined central dense overcast. The eye has been coming and going. That will probably get better defined as we go on the visible imagery, but you can already see it on the radar offshore from the Texas-based Weather Service radars. And when you have a well-defined hurricane like this, it's to the right side of that where it comes ashore that the storm surge will be the greatest. We just don't know exactly where the landfall of the eye is going to be, and so that's why we can't pinpoint right now who is going to get the worst storm surge. And the rainfall totals are also kind of track dependent, but regardless of exactly where Harvey goes and exactly where it meanders, the center of the circulation will not necessarily be the center of action. You could be receiving substantial, life-threatening rainfall that could cause inland flooding Don't drive your car over a water-covered road. Most people who die in inland flooding die in their cars. So if you stay off the roads, your chance of surviving in the inland rainfall flooding event go way up. Now, with the storm surge, here are the values we are anticipating above ground level, above normally dry ground. This is what is expected somewhere in this area, 6 to 12 feet in the central Texas coast, 5 to 7 feet north and south of that, or 5 to 8 feet as you get up closer to Galveston. That's above normally dry ground. And there is time left tonight, especially if your emergency managers have told you to evacuate in this storm surge warning area, for you to get out. And if you haven't heard those instructions, call your emergency manager to find out where you can go and how you can get there. Back to you.
All right, Dr. Knapp, thank you very much for the update. We've got a lot more coming back here on our coverage. Harvey, how much more intense will the winds get? How much higher will the water go? All those details to be laid out, as well as the next advisory from the Hurricane Center due any minute. You're watching the Weather Channel.
What do you do? I don't want you to do that with a TV.
Thank you for staying with us for the Weather Channel's live coverage of Hurricane Harvey, a Category 1 hurricane now approaching the Texas coast. In about 24 hours from now, things are going to be very, very different here in Texas. I'm Mike Bettis in Surfside. Dr. Rick Knapp joining us from the Weather Channel headquarters in Atlanta. Check in with Dr. Knapp here in just a second. Want to give you an update, though, on the water. You can see that the waves getting bigger and bigger now through the day. Usually a very, very tranquil Gulf of Mexico in the summertime. A lot of times you get out there with your small craft, and it's not a problem at all. In fact, there are times you get out there and just paddleboard and barely see a wave at all. But through the day, the waves have come up. The high tide is coming up now. And I'll pull out my anemometer here, and the winds are now a little bit higher than they've been at any point during the day. Top number there is the number that you're focusing on, and it's generally been between about 10 and 15 miles per hour here this evening. But we'll watch these winds steadily get better and higher, I should say, as we go through the next 24 hours and beyond. That's because Harvey's going to get closer and closer to the coastline here. Dr. Rick Knapp, our hurricane expert and former Hurricane Center director with the National Hurricane Center down in Miami, joining us now tonight. Dr. Knapp, what concerns you most, if there's any concern? I mean, I know you have many. What's the biggest concern you have with Harvey?
One word: water. Whether it's going to be storm surge at the coast or inland flooding, not just near the coast, but extending well inland, and a storm surge and rainfall event that begins tomorrow and lasts for days. Water is by far the biggest concern. We talk a lot about the strength of the hurricane and how strong the winds are, but the winds produce the storm surge, and a stronger hurricane, well developed, is going to be an even more prolific rainfall producer. So the winds of a major hurricane, which is what we're expecting at landfall, can be damaging, deadly, but let's be thinking about water. That's what takes the most lives. Intermediate public advisory is in from the National Hurricane Center. Maximum sustained winds still at 85 miles per hour, Category 1 on the wind scale. Pressure is down a couple more millibars to 974. That is an indication that probably the winds are going to catch up at some point tonight and maybe get a little bit stronger. We do have a Hurricane Hunter plane in the system right now. Air Force C-130J has departed from Biloxi, Mississippi. Keesler Air Force Base. They've already made one pass through the center of the hurricane, and that was helpful in determining what the central pressure is. And the strongest winds they've gotten on the stepped frequency microwave radiometer, SFMR. That's an instrument, sits on the underside of one of the wings. It looks at the ocean surface, and it can remotely measure surface wind speed. And from that instrument, they haven't seen anything strong enough to increase the maximum sustained winds above 85, but this plane's going to be in there a while, and we'll see if the winds come up as the next couple hours go on before we get the next full advisory, which will update this forecast track and intensity. But I don't expect any major changes to the overall scenario. We're forecasting strengthening. Sometime on Friday evening, it could be as strong as 125 miles per hour, or maybe a little bit more, and that would take it not just to Category 3, but Category 4. In any event, major hurricanes tend to go up and down in intensity due to internal structural changes in the core, or maybe it'll come across some slightly cooler waters right before it gets to the coast. And so if the intensity goes up and down before landfall, don't be surprised, but be planning for a major hurricane coming ashore in Texas. We get to late Friday, early Saturday. And then, unfortunately, that's the beginning of the event. It is going to be a long duration wind, storm surge, and inland flooding event. It will stall into next week somewhere near the coast, a little bit offshore or a little bit inland, maybe a little bit of both, depending on exactly where it meanders. And that's all bad news, because that will rack up the rainfall totals. Something close enough to the water will still allow it to tap into the energy of the warm Gulf waters, and it will mean days of strong winds, storm surge, and heavy rainfall. And that is why we're really worried about water being the main problem here, because a major hurricane can produce tremendous amounts of storm surge, salt water, and can drop a lot of rainfall, the fresh water. The models show why the forecast track doesn't go anywhere after we get to the coast, because you see these models meandering. Look at how some of them meander inland, and some of them meander just offshore. So it's even possible it comes inland for a little while, comes back offshore and re-strengthens. So much uncertainty in exactly how strong it will be, but that's not going to change what will generally happen with water. It's going to be a major storm surge and inland flooding event, no matter what the details of the track end up being. So what you can do to prepare tonight and early tomorrow won't change. Don't focus on the details of the track forecast and the exact intensity. Focus on the fact that not just inches, but feet of rainfall could happen over much of southeastern and deep south Texas. Turn around, don't drown, don't drive your car over a water-covered roadway, because most people who die in inland flooding die in their cars. And when a hurricane looks like this, you already get a sense for how it is going to be able to push the ocean around, especially near into the north and northeast of where the center comes ashore. So while we don't know exactly who's going to get 6 to 12 feet of storm surge flooding above normally dry ground, somebody will, especially to the right of where the center comes ashore. And this is the area where there's a storm surge warning in effect, Mike, and you need to evacuate if your officials have told you to do so. And if you haven't heard such instructions, give them a call. There might still be time to get out tonight, Mike.
Hey, Dr. Nab, I want to ask you for some insight here. Put us in the forecaster's chair at the National Hurricane Center. What's on your mind right now? What data are you looking for? What's the next advisory going to say? Does the wording change? Tell us what's happening inside the Hurricane Center right now.
Well, every forecast needs to get off to a good start. So that Hurricane Hunter data from the Air Force plane that's in there right now is critical, not just to get an idea of what the maximum sustained winds are, but to use that pinpoint detection of where the center of circulation is, because you are really lining up how fast is it moving at the initial time, and then how big is the wind field, because not only is a stronger hurricane bad news, but a bigger hurricane with a broader wind field can be bad news. And if the wind field has expanded according to the aircraft data, that might change the storm surge forecast. And then, of course, every new cycle of models that comes in is critical for the human forecaster deciding what to do with the intensity and track forecast.
Hey, Dr. Nab, I know that in the past, when we had large systems like this, you've briefed the White House before. At this point in time, about a day away from landfall, would you have already briefed the president on what the hurricane would be doing?
If history is a guide to what would be going on in this kind of situation, yes. We'd be briefing the president at this stage. You would be utilizing the setup of the Hurricane Liaison Team, the HLT, that is set up by FEMA and the Hurricane Center within the walls of the Hurricane Center, right around the corner from where the forecaster is sitting. And they have a video teleconferencing capability, and FEMA headquarters connects the Hurricane Center director or someone on the staff to FEMA, state emergency managers, and sometimes local emergency managers, and also a number of different federal agencies, sometimes involving the White House and the president, to support the local decision making.
All right, Dr. Knapp, thank you very much. Insight you're only going to get from him. Stick around. The Weather Channel's coverage of Harvey. We'll be back after this.
For a limited time, you can get this fresh, juicy Boston Market rotisserie chicken for $1.99 when you buy any family meal. Now, your next few dinners are taken care of. Boston Market.
Boston Market. Get a whole rotisserie chicken for $1.99 when you buy any family meal.
Quaker breakfast flats are crafted with these delicious ingredients and more, and baked with our wholesome Quaker oats to help keep you going. Help satisfy your morning hunger with every single bite. Quaker breakfast flats.
May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others. Let others do for you. May you build.
Long live the fearless, and long live the trucks that push you further. Ram, America's longest lasting pickups.
Now get an average $11,468 in total values on the 2017 Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab with a Hemi V8 engine.
Let's dance, Grandma.
You don't let anything keep you sidelined. That's why you drink Ensure with 9 grams of protein and 26 vitamins and minerals for the strength and energy to get back to doing what you love. Ensure, always be you.
This Labor Day at Enterprise Car Sales, experience great customer service and get more for your trade August 25th through September 5th. And let Enterprise Car Sales flip your thinking about buying your next vehicle.
What's happening?
In the modern world, you can control just about anything with an app.
Your son is turning on all the lights again.
You can do the same with your car insurance with the eSurance mobile app. eSurance. Click or call.
The average family's hectic home. It's witnessed 2 DIY duos, 31 crashes, 4 food fights, and the flood of '09. It's your paradise perfected with Bare Premium Plus paint. The best you can buy starting under $25. Only at the Home Depot.
Americans, 83% try to eat healthy, yet up to 90% fall short in getting key nutrients from food alone. Let's do more. Add 1-A-Day 50 Plus, a complete multivitamin with 100% daily value of more than 15 key nutrients. 1-A-Day 50 Plus.
Gentlemen, Vegan Skinny Strips or Vegan Black Label? What a delicious dilemma! Vegan Strips Premium Edition. With real meat as ingredient 1. Everything to your liking. Vegan Strips Premium. Because vegan!
Parodontax, the toothpaste that helps prevent bleeding gums. If you spit blood when you brush or floss, you may have gum problems and could be on the journey to much worse. Help stop the journey of gum disease. Try Parodontax toothpaste.
It's been building up over decades, and through 35 years of severe weather, it's strengthened into trust. Trust in the Weather Channel. To us, nothing matters more. Every season, every storm, every time you watch, trust the Weather Channel.
I think what makes the Weather Channel's coverage unique is that we are meteorologists. We know the weather, and that makes a tremendous difference.
Thanks for staying with us here for the Weather Channel's continuing coverage of Hurricane Harvey. I'm Mike Bettis, live in Surfside, Texas, where mandatory evacuation has been ordered. The water, it's really made a mockery of the beach already, if you will. A very, very short beach now, okay? Water's edge is right there, and look where the dunes are. They're right here. Okay, and here in Surfside, you're going to get a lot of different breaks, by the way, in the dunes. And these dunes are really, really short dunes, okay? Here's a little walkway, by the way, that comes right back in off the beach and right into a beach-level bar. This is, you know, the Seahorse Bar and Grill is above here, but they've actually got it almost underground, if you would call that, at least underneath the stilts. They've got a bar and a restaurant down here where you can order. All of this likely to be underwater. Unfortunately, folks, just because there's just very little rise here, and the dunes are very, very short at this point. There are a lot of breaks here in Surfside. There are areas where you can, drive from the road right through the dunes and onto the beach. And all those breaks are inlets for the water to come in. And just allowing the Gulf of Mexico to come in, well, it's just an invitation for flooding, not to mention how much rain we're going to get, which could be measured in feet, not inches. So you've got water coming from 2 different directions here, and this is why most of the folks that are here are going to be leaving and really heeding the evacuations, as they should, Alex, because at this point, you don't want to take any chances, and now we know that we could be looking at an even more intense hurricane at landfall. Absolutely no reason at all to stay and risk it.
Right, and Dr. Knapp, as you've been pointing out, the window to leave is being closed.
Yeah, it's not over yet, though.
So you still have time.
There's still time tonight, and contact your local emergency manager if you haven't heard evacuation instructions. Either they haven't come out or you just haven't heard it, because there's still time in most cases to get out of the storm surge flood prone areas. Now, for inland flood, what do you do? Well, it's a different story. It's not like we're going to evacuate everybody in this flash flood watch, okay? It's a different kind of plan to deal with the inland flood problem. But know that everybody in this area is at risk for flash flooding, because once the winds of tropical storm force, those outer bands, arrive on the coast sometime tomorrow morning to midday, maybe a little later farther north, once it starts raining, it could rain for days.
Right.
Okay? And so before it starts raining, here's a good time tonight and early tomorrow to think about what you can do to stay safe in the face of the inland flood hazard. When this much rain falls, it is a life-threatening situation. Well, why is that? If I'm in my house and it rains, what's the problem? Well, probably not much in most cases. Probably you'll be all right, because most people who die when this much rain falls and there's inland flooding, and we say it's life-threatening, they die in their cars.
Right.
We saw that in Matthew last year.
Yeah, they're traveling. We had folks across the East Coast getting out there on the roads, in some cases driving through water, in some cases going around barricades. Roads are closed, and they're thinking, it doesn't look too bad, I think I can make it. And unfortunately, not the case.
Yeah, and that doesn't look too bad mentality can get you into trouble, because we preach how you don't want to drive over any road that has water covering it, because there's no way to know for sure how deep that water is, and only 6 inches of water can take you off your feet. A foot or 2 will take your car and start floating.
And it doesn't have to be moving quickly to have a lot of force.
No.
Or look like it's moving quickly.
Right. And you're thinking, okay, is there going to be enough rain to cause that kind of devastating flooding? Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. 20 to 25 inches of rain here in the Corpus Christi, Port Lavaca area. San Antonio inland. If you get several inches to a foot or more of rain, yes, it can flood. Yes, your car can float. If you get this kind of rain in Houston, even if it's not as much as Allison, this is more than enough to flood in Houston.
Big problems.
Bad news. Stay off the roads.
Right. Stay in your house, as you mentioned. That's the safest spot in most cases that you can be. Mike, back to you. Message getting out today. Hopefully people are listening.
Yeah, hopefully it's loud and clear, and people are taking the necessary precautions. Last opportunity to take a look at the Gulf of Mexico before the beach disappears. More on the rapid intensification of Harvey after this.
You could be my love, even if the sky is falling down. I know that we'll be safe and sound.
So many Americans struggle with finances. Starting today, State Farm is here to help, giving us all the chance to simply sit down and learn. Visit letstarttoday.com or talk to an agent.
We're safe and sound.
Oh, heartburn.
Sorry, ma'am, no burning here. Try Alka-Seltzer Heartburn Relief Gummies. They don't taste chalky and work fast.
Incredible. Can I try? She doesn't have heartburn.
Alka-Seltzer Heartburn Relief Gummies. Enjoy the relief.
You asked for it, you got it. Steak and Lobster is back at Outback. Starting at $15.99 for a limited time, we're pairing our signature steaks with a mouth-watering steamed lobster tail. Starting at only $15.99, it's time to get back to Outback.
With Scotch Blue Platinum Painter's Tape, you can prep any angle quicker and easier. 3M's advanced poly material helps stop paint seepage, and it's easy to remove in one long pull, so you can pull off a better paint job. Scotch Blue Platinum Painter's Tape.
It's been building up over decades. And through 35 years of severe weather, it's strengthened into trust. Trust in the Weather Channel. To us, nothing matters more. Every season, every storm, every time you watch. Trust the Weather Channel.
Ladies and gentlemen, ever wish the bags under your eyes would just go away? If that sounds like you every morning, you're not alone. Eyes can look younger and in much less time than you think. Introducing Genucel from Chamonix. And now with Genucel immediate effects, these results happen in as little as 12 hours. Now you can fight back against bags and puffiness that make you look older and more tired.
I can look a little fresher, a little more awake, younger. I mean, why not?
I look younger, fresher, more awake.
Now, during the Genucel giveaway, you get a month's supply of Genucel free with your order. This amazing offer is backed by Chamonix's 100% risk-free 60-day money-back guarantee. But you only need 12 hours to see the results. And for DirecTV customers only, order now and get Chamonix spa-quality microdermabrasion treatment absolutely free. Call in the next 10 minutes and shipping is also free.
To take advantage of this amazing offer, call 1-800-691-6776 or go to genucel200.com. Call now.
When the weather turns serious, the first thing I'm thinking is, how do I communicate the message very clearly to people so they understand what the risk is and how to get through this?
You are watching the Weather Channel's live coverage of Hurricane Harvey. The wind's now starting to pick up here in Surfside, Texas, and the water's only going to pile up on the beaches here, especially at the eye and north. So if you're in that, what the locals would call dirty side, or what we call that the right front quadrant, you're getting the onshore flow. You get a lot of water that pushes onto these beaches here, and the storm surge that comes up 6 to 12 feet above what's typically dry land. One thing that's been noticeably different today about Harvey, and maybe our verbiage is a little different than when you were watching us yesterday at this time, is that the forecast, its current intensity, is already higher than its previous forecast at landfall a day from now. So rapid intensification has happened. It could go through further strengthening. Let's talk more details about that now with Alex and Dr. Nab, because it's a big concern, and where we go from here is likely only up, correct?
I think you're right, Mike. That's not good news, but that's what we're facing, Alex.
And unfortunately, you look at the Gulf of Mexico. Dr. Nab, I think even, casual viewers of the Weather Channel hear you say, what are we looking for? Warm water, and the Gulf is providing that.
Yeah, last night we talked about how the warm water was there, the weak wind shear in the atmosphere was there. It's just that the depression, Harvey, last night didn't have much of an internal structure. And we thought it would take a little while for that to establish itself, and then maybe starting about now, it would really start to ramp up. Well, somehow this morning it developed an inner core quickly, strengthened as a tropical storm, and now has quickly made it to Category 1 hurricane. In 24 hours, it's gone up 50 miles an hour. And that's astounding given how it looked yesterday. It just goes to show you how these systems are still difficult to forecast in terms of their intensity, mainly because we can't accurately forecast the timing of when that inner core is going to organize. But now that it has one, now that it's a hurricane, what we're watching very carefully is what we see in the Hurricane Hunter data, not just the winds, but the pressure. And it's already gone down 2 more millibars since we talked about this an hour ago. Okay, so the new Hurricane Hunter data shows that the pressure is still falling. That portends additional strengthening, along with the fact that the forecast guidance that the Hurricane Center forecasters have, they have what's called a rapid intensification index. It shows them the chances of going up in the next 24 to 36 hours. And
I know.